I
Yeah.
haven't re-listened to the show, but I can almost remember it word for word, and I know it's the one where Musk and Trump break up. But
Yes.
we predict in that show that the Epstein files are going to come out and be so damning that the alternative is going to be, we didn't say Venezuela, but we said an Iranian invasion or an Iranian attack. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'd say we called that one, especially with Nick. I don't know if you followed with Lutnick. He originally said, no, no, no. Epstein was my neighbor. I met him,
Yes.
but he was gross. I want nothing to do with him. And they find out like 6 years later, he and his family went to the island after they got the logs. And he's like, well, we went to the family with my kids, but I made sure to leave with all my children. And then they found the photo where he's in a photo at a different time at the island with Epstein. And then the Department of Justice took the photo down, put it back up cropped with him out of it.
Yeah.
So then it changed things because people already, of course, had it. So they noticed real quick that they had done it. So it makes you think, what is in these files that is being redacted? The more than redacted, censored. Because if they're hiding stuff for Lutnick, they're definitely hiding stuff for Trump.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to trust what the official release of the files are, right? Like, I've already seen that there's not just the redactions, there's still, I mean, and some of the files are things that have been public and known for a while. It's just people ignore or pretend that don't exist. And so there's still going to be a lot of that in play. And looking at all of the things that we discussed last year, I feel like we're living in an era now where because everyone's expecting things to move so quickly, everything is 12 weeks away, but then everything is still 12 weeks away. And so I think I'm hearing a lot of people talk about we're living in the singularity.
Mm.
And I think that's why it's so hard for many people to predict what is actually happening in so many related fields even, right? And so for us to throw out some predictions, I think anything's possible in this timeline right now. I
Right.
think we're beyond the models being able to predict accurately. And I think we're also starting to revert back to our cavemen sense of wonder about things. And pretend that there isn't science behind stuff, you know? So I think it's an interesting time, the singularity or whatever we're going through.
I will say about the Epstein files, and one thing I'm a bit bummed is it's like everybody got listed, but we didn't
Yeah,
make
we
it.
weren't
So
there.
that's like
How
you
far,
had to have at least a status to make it somewhere to get some kind of honorable mention. But
how did our file get left out? I mean, we're not paying
exactly,
nobody.
exactly.
But the other thing that I love about the Epstein files now that we're on it is a topic that's been dear to my heart, like ufology, right? Apparently, there's like a whole lot of secret access programs and dark money. I've even seen something like,
Do you know anyone in your immediate circle that will say they have seen a UFO or even
no,
alien life form? To go a little deeper, no. My grandmother, who is about to
yeah.
turn 99, swears, and my aunt swear that they have seen an actual extraterrestrial. Which I've asked
And,
her before. At
yeah,
first,
yeah.
I thought it was funny, but she wasn't laughing. So it's a
Do they
serious
have
topic.
yeah, no, I don't want to stay here. Do they have a description?
She says they were driving in Arizona
Yeah.
and along a highway, and this is she would have been born in like 28 or 29 to be 99 now. So no, she would have been born in earlier 1925. And I guess that was easy math. I don't know. I had to but I was just trying to think when they got married. So it would have been 40s to 50s, sometime in there. And when you
That's when it all
drive through
started.
when you drive in a hot sun, they take these big burlap sacks and fill them full of water, and they put it on the front of your car. So as you're driving into it, the wind is putting pressure on this burlap sack, and it's pushing this water out, and it creates like a mist. So it's your version of air conditioning. So then
Okay,
the
yeah, yeah,
mist
I got it.
comes out and cools everybody in the cars. It's basically just creating a bunch of humidity, right? So it's coming out. And they were driving along the car. They had just stopped to, I guess, fill this up. And they were just getting in the road to leave. And then right as the car is taking off, they see to the right this flying saucer that comes. And it's a single person. And just as you would think in the cartoon, apparently was like round shaped with little bubble and a little green man in it. So
It was a little green man.
apparently. So I'm actually going to go see her over Easter. We can do a
Yeah, get some
recording
more
with her.
details.
Because
Yeah, get
her and
some
her
more details.
sister, we should bring that up. Because I am going to try to set that up where we can talk to her. But yeah. And then my
Well,
aunt who lived in Alaska has quite a few stories about seeing a
yeah,
third
so
kind.
Arizona and Alaska are pretty, I consider them hotbeds, right? You've got Alaska, according to UFO law in American, no, this is where the two
Right.
main crashes.
Well, they're not really UFOs anymore, right? Now, aren't we calling them like
Yeah, UAPs.
UAPs, yeah. UAPs.
Yeah, we
yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
misinformation people here. But yeah, so the two UAPs that people believe that were significant that crashed one was in Kingman, and well, actually no, the other one was in New Mexico, but New Mexico borders Arizona, right? So there's also suggestions that the Native Americans there depicted these beings as well, right?
Are we talking about drawings on the side of a cave? Or?
Yeah. We're talking about drawings on the side of the cave.
This is like the Syrian texts.
I think we're going to find out a lot of things about the pyramids soon too, right? I'm not saying the pyramids are related to Epstein, but I think the Singularity is going to produce some pretty interesting scenarios where facts that we all held on to for the last few generations won't be considered facts anymore. They'll be considered misjudgment or misobservation by early humans.
Well, it does bring up a great question, because now, if there's one thing you would think your government could be good for, it would be like, all right, well, at least be really slow and boring and be a source of facts, right? But it doesn't seem to be that anymore. I mean, I know just right now, if we look at this Iran attack, I don't know if we're quite calling it, but whether or not we call it a war or an occupation or a combat, nobody can seem to get that right. All the lawyers are like, it's not a war, but Trump himself calls it a war all over. And then why we are there seems to be a real hard question for anyone to answer. From, what was the word he used as far as, back in June, he said, we annihilated the nuclear efforts. We totally decimated it. And now he's like, well, they were going to have nukes in a week. So we had to do it immediate. It was an immediate threat because they were going to have nukes in a week. And then even today, he said, well, if I would have been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, then I wouldn't have had to sink an Iranian ship. And so you can't really trust anyone. And I know when it first came out, I thought, no matter what they're saying right now, and they were quoting Hegseth, they were showing him going through the reasons why this is and the plan and da-da-da. I was like, it's so sad that, I mean, I imagine it happened before, but in my age group, it would have been the Iraq invasion. But it just brings back so many things where I'm like, there's not a person in this country who believes what you are saying right now. Like, you have zero credibility. And that's not even the fact that this administration has zero credibility and seems to have a problem with the truth. That's just the government in general has that problem, especially for making an accusation of why they're going to invade.
A core problem that's resonating throughout the universe right now, and it's like nobody has an opinion, right? Like everybody is becoming more and more tribal. And the reason why people can't understand what's going on in Iran, for example, is that is too fresh, right? It's a few days old. So the news has not formulated an opinion yet. There is no official narrative yet, because we know that
narrative.
Facebook and CBS is at least 2 weeks behind what's ever really happening in the world, because they need to make sure when they present that they've got an addition to the story. They've got some people to back it up. In the very early stages right now, a lot of people are relying on new sources of data, and those sources of data aren't perfected yet. Like a lot of people, instead of Googling the news now, I imagine people are starting to chat the news, right? Ask chat what's going on.
You can have an instant article written just for you. And your own bias, starting with like, you are so amazing.
But the reason why I don't think X is a good source for news either, but the reason why X is a better source for news than AI is because AI can't formulate opinion in real time. It has to have peer-reviewed and Associated Press and government authorities. And so in a time, especially in the early days of any kind of war or crisis, there's a lot of official statements that are kind of not really trusted, right? Like you've got America that's saying that they've killed the Ayatollah. And then you've got the Iranian government saying the Ayatollah's fine, he's going to speak in an hour. And so AI can't decide which ones of those are real. And
Right.
so the problem that we're seeing right now is a lot of people are kind of clueless because they're waiting for someone else to do the thinking for them. And the thinking's not getting any faster. The thinking's getting slower because it has to be channeled into one of two directions, left or right.
Well, Musk even came out to say if we all make AI's main focus be source of truth, then this could be something. However, our government seems to not think that Grok is doing a very good job of being a source of truth. And so it said, we're not going to use Grok at all. We're trying to do it with Claude. Then they say, don't use Claude, but then secretly they're using Claude, which is Anthropic. And then OpenAI is like, hey, we can come in, we can do it. So it's strange because even though Musk is saying be the source of truth, sounds like Grok is not actually becoming a source of truth. So it's a bit off. But you also brought up an interesting topic, and that is we're all going to our own bias. And I looked up the term. We've all heard this term, bully pulpit, but apparently this started with Freddie Roosevelt. He self-coined it, the bully pulpit. And going back, the bully apparently meant support, like rally the troops, get support around bully. So that's what he used for the bully pulpit, was to go. However, the bully pulpit has taken on a new meaning, and it does seem to be a political place where you can get on and literally bully and attack your opponents, which, the State of the Union was that. I was really shocked during the Olympics. The ski team, of which, had a varying opinion about how we're using ice in the country. And literally our president was threatening to take away their citizenship. Then Supreme Court, when they ruled on, I guess, against the tariff, that brought a lot of bad discussions about our own Supreme Court. I wouldn't even say it's fomenting. It's well fermented. Separation where almost anything now, any source of truth comes with a version. It's like, which slant on truth do you want? And you almost can't find truth without having a one side or the other giving its version.
Yeah, there's two things I want to talk about. One, before we lose it, is the whole, you're seeing it in politics really clearly now in America. But I don't know if you've ever watched a cabinet meeting in Australia or in England.
Much faster. Parliamentary debate. Yeah.
Yeah, our parliamentary
Well, I did
debate.
speech and debate in college, and we did parliamentary, so it's so much faster, whereas American is so slow.
Well, and not just that, like, you're talking about bully pulpit, like, I mean, there is swearing and heckling, and you have mobs behind you, like, you're berating your opposition, and you're using foul language, and you've got 100 other MPs behind you cheering on like a mob at a football game. It is insane. It is.
Well, at one point, even in Australia, they have the bloodline, right? Where in one of the chambers, you cannot cross the bloodline. The bloodline is where they used to take swords, apparently. Maybe you don't even know.
It's been a while since we've had swords in the parliament. I think they've got a mace in there still now. They've got a big thing. What I'm saying is, so I think that
now it's a guy in a business in the back and a beer throwing cans at each other.
I think politics in America used to be TV, and it was more gentleman. It was hosted by journalists who were proper and who were maintained, and they weren't passionate. They reported the news.
Our American president debates are like that, right? They're not actual debates.
Well, what I'm saying is you've moved beyond TV, and you're not gentlemen anymore. You've moved to the YouTube arena, where it's normal
30-second clips, 3-second clips.
We're not white collar people discussing this. We're anybody discussing this now, and the politics gets into the gutter, and that's leaking back into politics in general because that's where the real discussion's happening now. The real discussion is not happening on TV anymore. So,
now, do you think that is because we need to shape the narrative? Or do you think that's more about how to rally the troops? Because, I mean, who doesn't love a good sports team? And when you can be like, I love my team, which means I hate your team. I'm just all for my team.
Yeah.
And if you go to a sports game, people get so empowered about the sport. I mean, you go to soccer in Brazil and they're cutting people's heads off. So maybe is it more about to rally the troops where they, they're really trying to give like good cues to make sure your team stays, we got one. Or do you think it is narrative?
I think it's different to that. I think part of the singularity is that before what's coming, there used to be kings and rulers. And after what's coming, there won't be kings and rulers again. And so right now, the only way to stay a king or a ruler is to create a tribe and then create some kind of trust and unification or some loyalty to that tribe. And so that's why everything, and even now, like this is my second point I was going to get to beyond politics becoming gutter-like, was that it's getting more extreme to the point that if you're on the left and you don't agree with the official narrative that's being presented that is the left, then everyone else around you will label you a pariah or like a mole or like a fake, someone who's like just trying to stir, like a rhino or I don't know what the word for a Democrat that's really a Republican. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of these.
A blue dog.
Sure, yeah. So that's what happens now. Is anyone who kind of doesn't toe the line with President Trump is an extreme hippie or socialist now, and anyone who kind of questions any political side is told, well, they're being paid by the Jews. You know what I mean? So like there's
Throw in a conspiracy.
Yeah, because
and the less evidence there is to support your conspiracy, the better, because then, it's like, see, it must be true because they've covered everything up.
They deleted it from history. Yeah. And so people are getting less informed. They're just being more tribal. And the reason for that is because the rulers know that people are going to if they're not kings already, we're about to be kings, because there is no the gap between opportunity of the ultra elite and the average person in a Western country with tech is becoming very narrow. It used to be extremely wide, but now, like, in Australia, for example, we don't get everything right, but even a mother who can't afford a house,
you can't even drive on the right side of the road.
Yeah, but her daughter will get the same healthcare and treatment as the Queen of England's daughter. Mm. So, and that gap is narrowing everywhere. I know Elon Musk says a lot of things, but some of the things he does say are true in that, as we get more access to data and as we get more access to services, it's going to close more of those gaps.
But that's fair. But I mean, that's been happening for a long time. If you compare 100 years ago, who has access to any type of medical treatment, I mean, it is multiple times better than what it was 100 years ago. So I would say technology and history always plays that we're going to be doing. But another question for this to put into this, because we've just talked about politics being whether you're trying to rally your crew or you're trying to create kind of these isolated pockets or silos. But the media seems to do this on their own as well. It's not just politics. You're seeing general media. And so I think, go as an example, we saw Russia use Facebook to basically use our own bias against us. That's what's funny is what Russia did. Yeah, they definitely did it, but it's on us, the fact that we believed everything they put out and created a bunch of silos and shared it with the world because they were creating articles that sold to our own bias. I mean, that's really where the problem was. It really should be on us. And so as we see some of those, like some of them, I think of it, ivermectin, which is a popular one that, Mel Gibson is not a doctor, nor has he ever, I don't even know if he's played one on TV, maybe. But a lot of .com sites have come out and give these anecdotal evidence. And I'm just using this as an example where there are many who just take to that. There are many YouTuber crazy people like us that people think know something, and then they say, oh, well, they said it, so it must be true.
This is what I think is coming through the Singularity, and we've kind of discussed this a little bit before. And this is why, and Grok is a good example, because to make Grok look smarter, Elon's promoting Gork today, which Gork is just a clown version of Grok. But Grok was already the clown version of AI. Right. So it's just like a super clown. Like, it's like, you're not getting any more useful. They're just creating characters. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is they should be using tech, right? Like, I don't believe that AI is a god. I think most people are seeing AI and they're cavemen and they're looking at someone doing a puppet show on the wall and they're like, oh, the shadows are alive. That's most people with AI. To me, I understand that it's actually someone standing in front of the fire and they're moving their hands and they're creating shadows, right? But the point is if everyone else believes that those shadows are real, everyone else is going to follow those shadows. And so the big play with AI and tech moving forward is the source of truth. It's going to try to be the source of truth. Because if you have the source of truth, if you have real access to data, if you can get real medical advice, if you could get real business financial advice, if you could get all these things and it was real and solid, or as good as you could pay for from an expert, then that changes the game. But we're not there yet. And I'm not just talking about for me and you, I'm talking about governments using technology to solve real problems. Right now, you've got people debating about climate change. You've got people debating about waste management. We could solve these problems first with math and technology and AI. Instead, we're trying to go to Mars and terraform other planets. Like, what the?
Well, source of truth is hard. For example, this week, I don't know if you saw videos of Melania Trump hosting the UN Council. No, you didn't say. Okay, Melania Trump hosted the UN Council. I think it was in New York.
Wait, was this AI? Did it have a little?
Well, that's what I thought at first. So when I saw it, I was like, that's too funny. There's no way. And so every time I saw it, I was like, this is AI. You guys are so gullible. This is clearly AI. And it turns out it's true. So then you have something where actual truth came out, but because I'm so used to now this world of deep fakes and AI generating wild things, I almost say, okay, anything that doesn't fit like certain narratives, I just assume is AI. And then what I also fell for, I was like, what? Because I've been to Ukraine often, I travel there, so I'm a little more sensitive to hear like Iran attacks our USS Abraham Lincoln.
Because they were attacking everyone, yeah.
I was like, what the hell? And then you find out they're like, nope, didn't happen. Actually, we sunk their battleship. So there is this balance of it needs to go through quite a few cycles to ultimately get clean to be a bit of source of truth. But there's that time where everybody talks about it, and that's when it creates hype, right? So on Iran, we're all willing to dig deeper, or the UN Council, we're willing to dig deeper and stay engaged to ultimately find out, like, where does this level out? But there's lots of things we don't stay as engaged. Like it gets us. And this hasn't changed ever. So AI didn't do it. It's why we created headlines, right? We have these short little headlines. Then we read the article. We're like, the headline had nothing to do with the article. What? They totally just pulled you in, right? So it's almost what I'd call in business a red herring. So these things that lead you down this ultimate path that was unintended from what you originally went. So when you do that, I think back to the Obama administration. The media ate out of his hand. I mean, he really mastered. They would just follow him around and gawk at him, and he just owned the media. It was like almost annoying on how much they would just take every segment and turn it into like poetry coming out. But then Trump...
Can I give you context from an Australian perspective? Because this is what happened. That was straight after George Bush and the coalition of the willing. And by the end of that, even Australia felt like America had become a racist country. And so it was imperative that America got a black president, and it was imperative that he was correct in everything he did. And that's what happened. So there was like a vacuum there that helped him beguile mainstream. That I feel.
Wait,
like
so are you saying the media was really trying to prove that they weren't racist? So they were like, 100%. Oh, we got to
100%. And it's the same. It's the same reason why there's Trump derangement syndrome as well, because a lot of that is from the media. I mean, Trump's a dickhead. No one likes Trump, but the media make him out to be like the next coming of Satan himself, and it's because they want to disassociate themselves with him.
Let's talk through how Trump has had to master the same media, because he has gotten the exact same attention as Obama did. So there's not a periodical from the time he started running his campaign. There's not a time when they wouldn't print everything he did. Now, his strategy was slightly different, where Obama, they were following him around. Trump had to maintain attention. Him from the beginning. Right. Well, if you remember at the very beginning, and this is like not the 80s beginning, because he ran for president in the 80s and he wouldn't shake people's hand, then he bailed and he went out. This is before his first campaign, when he ultimately was deciding which party he was going to run for, Democrats or Republican. I think a lot of MAGA forget that. But he went out saying, we're going to stop all Muslims from entering the country. That was his big one. That got him in the press everywhere. And everybody was just like, this is crazy, right? But he stayed in the press for a long time. And if you notice, there is something that, like, I sometimes feel overstimulated. because as soon as you think like, okay, just give me a break from what happened yesterday, and then boom, there's another thing even bigger and even more surprising. And one of my favorite stories that I think of, and this is just a story I remember. This is an example of how Trump has always mastered the media. He was losing in Utah to Ted Cruz. And when he found out he was losing to Ted Cruz, he made an announcement and tweeted it out. This is when he was using Twitter. He did this an hour before they were going to release who won Utah. And of course, when you're running a political campaign, your press on winning a state is all you get. If you can't run on winning a state, like you won't get any more states, because as the states are coming in through primaries, everybody in the next state kind of lean on what's trending, where things are happening. Right, exactly. So it's kind of this sheep follower mentality, but everybody's trying to bet out of these 12 candidates, which ones are the narrowing. I don't want my vote to lose. They want to pick the right team. So right before they announced Utah, he tweets out, Ted Cruz's wife is a call girl. And then all the media swarms him like, what do you mean she's a call girl? He's like, yeah, I have evidence. We're going to be showing a video and it'll come out in the next 3 hours. And when they announced the winner of Utah, like no one was talking about it. It was silence. Ted Cruz was there to like make an announcement and not a TV camera was recording. He was all by his quiet self. His campaign, the party they were showing was huge, but nobody carried on with it. They all talked about how his wife is a call girl. He waited 3 days and played this on for 3 days. When they finally released the video of Ted Cruz's wife, it was a video that someone had taken from outside looking into a campaign office of her making a call in the back of their campaign headquarters.
Being a call girl, yeah.
Being a call girl. So that just tells you, like, I mean, out of everything that Trump is, he is a master marketer. He knows that he has taught us all a crazy lesson, and that is no matter what, just be relevant. Which means whether it's good or bad news, just be in the news. And he's willing to say, do, or, anything to stay relevant and to stay in the news, which we see, which is continuous crazy and chaos, but we fall for it. We fall for it time and time again with this. It's almost like squirrel syndrome. I'm overstimulated, but as soon as someone yells squirrel, I'm like, what is it? Oh, Iran now? A ship? Oh, Neil? We got rid of, the DHS secretary?
Do you remember the song Dirty Laundry?
No.
Okay, so it's a song called Dirty Laundry, and it's about...
Is it Australia?
No, it might be America. It's a big song, but whenever I see Trump, this song plays in my head.
Dirty Laundry.
No. I don't even want to sing it because I can't think of any kind of tune now after hearing that. So, but it's about using good or bad headlines to stay on top, And so it doesn't matter why you're in the news, just make sure you're in the news. And I've seen that strategy from companies, from institutions, religious organizations, as long as you're in the news, then you're getting publicity and then you get to tell your side.
But he's a master at it, but that's not new, right? I mean, so that's right. Like, how do we change that in this world of truth?
Well,
because it's always.
I think everyone
he's
will
just
agree.
Mastered it.
Joe, I think everyone would agree the biggest fail from any profession, even with what the medical industry did with COVID, the bigger fail than that would be the journalism industry. Like, journalists have had from the highest kind of level of respect to the lowest in the shortest amount of time, because they have dropped the ball. And what I'm saying is, so part of that goes back to when Trump was running. Most people didn't even expect Trump was going to be elected or even be the front runner for the Republicans, because the media did not accept reality. Right. The media was running a campaign based on speculation and their love. Well, media,
you can almost say, I'd say they were trying to show, but they still covered him because then
when he did win, first of all, they treated it like a joke, and then because their girl didn't win, because feminism was killed in America, Trump became this deranged, what is it? Just manhood he was just like...
He was convicted of sexual abuse, so I
know he's very... I know he has an ego, but he was blamed...
It's more than an ego.
But he was blamed for for the modern comeback in masculinity and what's it, patriarchy. All of the crime of patriarchy he's responsible for now. And
So
what I'm
they
saying
say,
is
right? Yeah.
it's because the journalists wanted their woman in, and so he got to use that instead of he's a master at things. So he tacked into wind and he sailed. He used that energy to get ahead because people went extreme with that, and that's when we haven't even gone into that. But gender identity, that's a whole new side of politics that. It's like racism as well. Racism in America has become extreme to the point where if you represent a certain demographic, you can't be charged criminally because it's racist. That's insane.
Well, I get your point, but aren't all of those just more topics, especially in a two-party state? Having run for office a couple of times in a third party and did really well. At one of my races for House seat, I actually got the largest third-party vote in a state race in the country. And it was
I read that on your Twitter profile.
Yeah, it's like 7%. I'm very proud. No, I got 7%, right? So in a two-party race, you have, in economics, it's called hotel. Economist Hotel gave it. But if it's a linear thing, these two parties, basically any third party that comes up with a new topic, they just eat it, right? And then it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I do agree with you. I'm moderate. I agree with you. But I hate them so much. I just can't chance them winning. So I got to go over here. And we see that, I mean, third-party politics, I've seen it over and over and over. So this is where I knew when Elon Musk is like, I'm going to start a new party. And when what's-his-name started the Forward Party in New York, I'm like, listen, until we get more of a parliamentary representation, it's a two-party system. So it would have to be the party itself have to take over, which almost happened. Like Tea Party almost took over the Republican Party. MAGA has almost taken over the Republican Party. But each time they turn on themselves and, it grows into something different. But they end up absorbing all these new arguments. So on the Democratic side, why did they go woke? Well, because they were trying to show that they're inclusive. Because a lot of Democrats have no business being together other than the fact that they hate Republicans. It's very true. If you get a lot of Democrats in their own room, the only thing they really have in common is they hate Republicans. And Republicans are almost the same thing. You put them in a room, and the only thing they don't like is Democrats. So you're really trying to make these small arguments as far as the electorate to say, okay, well, can I just absorb you? And look, we're very inclusive. We're very inclusive. But isn't this back to just crafting a narrative? And how do you define in that? How do you define a source of truth? Like there isn't. It's very hard to find truth.
I think this would have been interesting in America if Trump had a run for his second term as a third party. And then, I don't know if you pay any kind of attention to Australian politics, but we are having a revolution right now. So there is a party. It's led by One Nation. It's her name's Pauline Hanson. When you were here 20 years ago,
I remember her name. Right.
She was jailed politically for being racist, and she's not racist. She was just trying to make sure that Australia doesn't lose its identity with all of this mass influx of population. And the two major parties, they've been getting more and more closely aligned because they think that going woke is the key to both of them. So they think, oh, if the other person wins on this, we'll adapt that and we'll have bigger smiles. We'll present that in red. We'll present that in blue. So we haven't had two parties anymore. Our two parties literally became a uniparty. And now One Nation, the redneck hillbillies that live in caravans, are about to take over Australia. And everyone is behind them. It is so insane right now.
I haven't followed. So
look it up.
But that is about messaging, right? So even a political party, they're all about messaging. So there's two things. There's the narrative, but then there's the source or the truth. You were saying you have to get to the source. So whose obligation is it ultimately to find this truth? Because there's some narratives you're just like, I like the narrative, I'm in. And if you really poll people on candidates, most of them couldn't really tell you like a reason they hate this one or don't like that one. I honestly think there's a baby boomer generation that hates Hillary Clinton because she didn't leave Bill when he cheated on her. Like that's what they hate about her. They can't come up with any other reason, but they will just be like, I'll go for Trump, even though I'm like, wait, so this guy's had 3 marriages.
I think the Hillary Clinton kill list is probably enough. A few people to kind of question.
Right. The killed list or the kill list?
killed list, like dead list. There's a
Right.
dead
Yeah, yeah,
list.
yeah.
There's a
Right.
lot of people that
A
Clinton's
lot
like,
of bodies. There's a
like
lot of bodies.
how many people that do you know, Joe, that have like committed suicide or been murdered? Like, how many?
Well,
A
I
few?
actually know a few. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually know a few.
Well, a few is not that bad. I think they
Right,
say
right.
even the average person is
But
going to
I will
come into
say
contact with a
everywhere
murder.
the Clintons go, there is a trail of bodies. So
Yeah.
it is very, very interesting. All the way down to Epstein, which I don't know if you listened to either of the Clintons' deposition.
Listen to parts. But going back to your source of truth, and that is the problem, is you ask the question, whose responsibility is it to work all this out? And the problem is it's no one's. It's ours. It's yourself, right? It's mine. And most people don't care. Most people are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with what their priority list is. And their priority list is getting harder and harder while there becomes more and more interesting things to debate. For the average person, it's getting harder and harder to pay for rent, to feed the kids, to buy toilet paper. I mean, there's not a shortage of toilet paper anymore, but it's hard to buy it now.
Right. Right.
So
Once the message is out there that toilet paper has a shortage, well, then it actually did have a shortage. So that's a great one where the original wasn't truth, but it did hit the hype news and everybody was like, oh, there's a shortage. And then it actually came to fruition.
And there's still people that haven't talked to people in 5 years, driving themselves in masks in their own cars, So, people live in bubbles. We all live in our own bubble. And I just feel like there's just a lot more bubbles being burst right now. And so if you look at a bubble map, do you know what a bubble map is? There's one going around right now. It says it's got the Matrix, it's got Idiocracy, and it's got, what is the other one?
I like these three bubbles and what's in the
Yeah,
middle.
and then
How do they all
we're in
have
the
in
little one.
common?
We're in the middle, yeah. So everyone's in part of a big bubble map. And right now, bubbles are just being burst so quick. And when a bubble bursts, it doesn't mean that the bubble doesn't exist anymore. It just means it gets engulfed by another bubble system.
By this, you mean we have these realities that we live in. And
Yes.
the realities are, it could be like, oh no, I'm Republican. So that means everything the Republicans do are true. And anything Democrats do are bad. So I just believe everything that's red and I don't believe anything that's blue. And then you're like, no, he'll never start a new war. And then when he starts a war, you're like, so you have to
Exactly.
reassess, like, what is my truth?
Yeah, you're still in a bubble, but your bubble is now slightly bigger and it's engulfed another idea, but we're all still in bubbles. And I think what is happening now with the singularity, these bubbles are just popping exponentially or engulfing each other exponentially. And we're all being exposed to data that we don't know how to make sense of it.
I mean, this like synthetic reality, right? These are these bubbles, the synthetic reality that is created, and whether they're narrative based or our own self-bias selection of whatever they are.
Tort agreements, like, they're things that a lot of people, they don't even know they're agreeing to it. It's just that this is what everyone else accepts as the status or as the base. And so that becomes part of your belief system. And then when that's challenged, you don't know what to do with that information because you don't even remember agreeing to the baseline principle in the first place. It was passed on to you or you picked it up like an accent.
So here's kind of an ending question that kind of sums it all up. What do you think the responsibility is for the bully pulpit to be a source of, attempted truth to avoid because ultimately it becomes like a weapon and you're manufacturing relevance, division, and distrust as a candidate who has the bully pulpit. But at the same time, every candidate has always done that because they're a candidate for office, right? So where does that line come in between, because I love to throw Russia under the bus, but they live a single media source and, have one narrative and that is all that is accepted. So where here we have many narratives, but nobody knows which one is right.
I still think there's still a clear narrative, even though you try to muddy the waters over there. And when I say you, I mean the United States. Like outside the United States, we all judge you and we all think it's pretty clear exactly what you're doing. And it feels like sometimes when you have to go a certain direction and your followers would ultimately reject that, you have to come up with some confusion to drag them through that swamp. And that's what happens a lot, right? From when you're inside a tribe, that's where the confusion is. Outside the tribe, everyone's like, oh, we can see what's going on here. They're double speaking. which happens a lot in every institution. There's a public voice and there's a private voice, and
Of course,
they're
isn't that
different.
isn't that
Yes,
our own problem? Is that we think, here we are, we're looking in a mirror, but we're like, look at those idiots in that bubble. With that
and
synthetic reality. But then that is our own synthetic reality, is that we think they're the ones that have got it all messed up, and we're not willing to recognize that maybe we're the ones not having our own bias or falling for our own bias.
And I think it's part of evolution. I hope to think that as I get older, I get wiser. I used to think I knew everything. Now I know nothing, so at least I know that.
The more you know, the less you know.
I know nothing. Yeah.
Right.
So I think ultimately that's where everything's going. You look back 200 years ago, and what I was talking about earlier, the gap between a peasant and a royal was just insane. Okay,
Right.
That was 200 years ago, and now it's just so narrow, and that gap is increasingly narrowing, and that's what I believe really is a singularity. Is like we are all in the world that we live in. It is rules based on kings and
You have to
crowns,
have an
and
actual room on the Epstein's island to make it to the royalty now.
that's going to change. I think it's going to change, and every time someone sees it changing, that's when people get mad, right? Because they're like, "What? They're not following the rules anymore." You know what I mean? And it's because the rules don't apply. The rules were for the old world.
I like it. You heard it here, folks. Stay tuned, because coming up, we have Zolal Habibi, who is going to dive into some very interesting conversations in regards to Iran. She's done lots in support of the movement there, so it's going to be a great conversation. So stay tuned for that. You heard it here, Hostile Dysfunction.
Yeah.
See y'all.